Hello everyone, welcome to this fifth video in the series of videos in which we are talking about time series analysis in skTime library. In the last video, if you guys have watched that video, in that video we started discussing the theoretical aspects of time series that we need to know before actually tackling some more advanced statistical models. Now, the reason that I am doing this is because as we move along this series, there might be some concepts which are introduced which we should know beforehand to actually understanding those advanced models. Okay, so in the last class, I discussed about time series and the types of time series, and I discussed one of the most fascinating concepts in time series, which is known as stationary time series and non-stationary time series. Now it turns out that the analysis of time series gets really easy when your time series data is a stationary data. And if it is not stationary, then it turns out that there are methods which can turn your non-stationary time series to a stationary time series. And if you guys remember, I also discussed the method of moving average to actually detect the trend. And in fact, I just remembered that I did not discuss that method of moving averages in the last lecture. So because trend I need to discuss in this particular video, so I will be discussing that method in this video only. Okay, so let's get started. So we have already discussed the time, stationarity and non-stationarity, and we also discussed some examples. In particular, we plotted the airlines data, and after plotting the airlines data we were able to get this information that airline data is a non-stationary data. Now I would like to start talking about this trend, seasonality and random component in time series. Okay, so let us get started. So before I actually discuss this concept, I would like to first of all import the airline data so that I can explain the concepts of trend, seasonality and random component in the context of airline data. So I will say from skTime dot datasets, let me import load airline. Okay, so I'll make a new variable called airline, and I'll say load airline. All right, so let's quickly have a look. And also I would like to import the plotting function from the skTime library from skTime dot utils dot plotting dot forecasting import plot ys. And if you don't know what this plot ys function does, please watch my previous videos in which I discuss how does this plot ys function works. And I think if you think that you should be using matplotlib, then you are free to use matplotlib, but I will suggest you to use this plot ys function because it is quite handy, and there are lots of things which you do not need to do manually using matplotlib. You can just use this single command of plot ys to create very sophisticated graphics. Okay, so now that we have imported this airline data and plot ys data, what I would like to talk about is this concept of trend, seasonal and random component in time series. Okay, so to discuss these three things, what I would like to do is I would like to take a single realization of time series. And what do I mean by single realization? Single realization is just a single value of time series. So I have just indexed the first value of the airline data, and let me explain you something. What we do in time series is we assume that this single realization is equal to, or rather is made up of, let's say we are considering three components. Let me say this first realization is made up of a component called t, a component called s and a component called r. Now what I have done here is I am saying that this 112 value, out of this 112 value, some part I can attribute to this t, some part I can attribute to this s, and remaining part I can attribute to this r. And what I have done here is having a special name in time series, which is known as additive representation. Additive representation of components. And I'll copy this out and I'll copy this out and I'll write the same expression, but in place of this positive sign I'll use this multiplication sign, and I can say this particular additive as multiplicative representation. Multiplicative representation. Now, so both of these representations are actually quite useful, and you should know and you should be aware of these representation. Now let me talk about these individual symbols which I have represented as T, S and R. You might have guessed what they are actually representing. So T represents the trend value, S represents the seasonal value, and R represents the random value. So any value, any realization in time series, I can represent in the form of three components. Now there are other components also, like there is also a component called cyclic component, but I'm not going to talk about that component in this video. What I want to take away, what I want you to take away from this video is that every value in the time series data, every realization of time series data can be represented as either a sum of these three values or as a product of these three values. And what are these three values? So this is what we need to figure out, right? So every time series analysis task is essentially related to figuring out these three values. Okay, so I hope you are able to understand this. Now there is a special method which I was talking about earlier in the video, that method of moving average, which I thought that I covered in the last video, but I did not. I need to cover that in this particular video only. And that method is a method of moving averages. And with the help of moving averages method, what we can do is we can compute this trend of the time series. Now let me use the plot ys function on airline data. Now if you, okay, I did not import the matplotlib library because to show the plots I need to import the matplotlib library. So I'll import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. Okay, so let me run this cell. Okay, so now if you notice, if you try to see the trend of this particular graph, as we move to the right of x-axis, what do you see the value of, what do you see the effect of effect on the y-axis? You can clearly see the effect is upward. Okay, but how can I extract this sole effect from this time series? So to extract this trend from the time series data, we use moving average method. And what moving average allow us to do is, it allow us to average out these fluctuations which are happening. It will only represent the overall trend of the time series data. So we need to specify how much time period or rather I should say what is the time period of the average that we want to consider. So I might say that I want to take the time period as, let's say 4 months. So what it will do is, it will take 4 months of data and it will average that out, and it will only consider that average value, and it will next, it will consider another 4 months of data and it will average that out, it will plot that data. And once it will do this particular step for all the data points, the remaining plot is hopefully only representing the trend component, not these fluctuations which are happening. And what do we mean by fluctuations? These sudden increase and decrease in the graph is what we mean by fluctuations. So we want to extract the trend out of this whole time series. Okay, once we extract this trend, we will be able to figure out this t value. And similarly, there is a procedure for computing the seasonality, which we will not talk about. Just understand that once we figure out t and s, the random component can just be evaluated after subtracting from the actual realization these two values, t and s values. So let me show you how can we compute the trend, overall trend of this particular plot. Okay, so to compute the trend of this particular plot, what I am going to do is I am going to first of all import pandas as PD. Okay, and I am also going to make a data variable from the airlines variable. So I'll say from pd.data frame, and I'll make, let's say, number of flights I represent as number, and I'll call this as airline. Okay, so let me have a look at the data. Okay, so this is the data that we are having. Now what I can do is I can extract the number of this variable, and there is a function in pandas which is known as rolling, and with the help of rolling, what I can do is I can specify the time period, let us say 10. Now what I have just done is I have created an object called rolling. Now this object is actually collection of groups, and in that collection each group is having 10 values. First 10 values, and then next 10 values is starting from 118, and then next 10 values is starting from 132, and after this particular step, what I can do is I can call some functions on this particular groups, on each member of the group. So let's say I call mean, and if I hit enter, we have another series, and I can call this another series as, let's say, moving average MAs, and after this I can plot this MA. And now notice here, the fluctuation in this plot is less than the fluctuation in this plot. Now if I increase this time period, so let's say if I increase the time period, then this fluctuation will get more and more smoothed out. So okay, yeah, again you can see the fluctuation is getting averaged out in this particular moving average method. So I hope you are able to understand how does we compute the trend component. Let me use one more larger value, which will be 30, and again there will come a time when you have increased your period so much that it is just going to look like a line. Yes, now notice, obviously 50 period is quite large for a data set of a 140 size, but still you get the idea, right? So this is what we mean by trend, and this is how we can extract the trend out of a time series by using moving average method, which just averages out the fluctuations. Okay, all right. So now what we need to understand is seasonality. Again, seasonality, if I have to explain you what do we mean by seasonality, now these repeated fluctuations that happen in every fixed time period. Now let us take an example for to explain this. So in every year there is a season called summer and winter. Now in summer the sale of certain type of products increases or decreases. Let's say in winter seasons sale of more warm clothes increases. So obviously when we plot the sales of warm clothes as a time series plot, there will be a sudden fluctuations, and that sudden fluctuations in each 12-month period will be known as seasonal component. Okay, so after determining the trend and seasonality components, what we can do is we can just subtract these two components from the actual realization to get the random component. Okay, so I hope you get the idea. Now let us consider the seventh problem, and the seventh problem is actually quite simple, and I have already discussed this particular problem in my previous set of videos, and this problem is actually related to the definition of forecasting. Now time series is just a sequence of data, and what do we mean by forecasting in time series? Essentially what we do is in forecasting we are essentially trying to forecast the next value in my sequence of data. Let me, if I have to use mathematical terminologies, I will say if I am having a, let me use the code cell to actually write something. So if I am having values like x1, x2, so on up to xn, this is actually if this is representing various realizations in my time series, so I can say something like x1 represents airline 0, x2 represent airline 1, and so on up to xn represent airline last value, which I can represent as -1 index in Python. So if I represent my time series like this, then what is the next value in my time series? That is, what is the value at the index n plus 1? Obviously n will be the number of items in my airline, which is 144. Okay, so I hope you get the idea. Now if I can predict this value, then using these set of values I can predict next n plus 2 value also. Now how many values I would like to predict in future, that we know as in time series forecasting horizon. So how many time steps ahead in future I would like to predict my time series data. Okay, so I hope you are able to understand this particular concept. Now question 8 is actually just listing out various methodologies for forecasting. Now naive forecaster is something we have already talked about. I am not going to go too much into naive forecaster, but remaining 4 we will be discussing as we move along this video, because these forecasting methods we will be discussing, and we will be discussing some of the merits and demerits of these forecaster. Okay, and also I have not listed one forecasting method which is actually the actually using, let me write it down really quickly. So I'll say the 6th method of forecasting is using machine learning, or in other words I can use regression in machine learning to forecast. Now how can I do that? In next or after some set of videos I will be discussing this, because for regression we need to have our data set in a different format. For regression we need to have features, and those features needs to have some sort of target. Okay, but in time series, as you have seen here, we only have a set of values in sequence. How can I get features out of this sequence? So all of these I'm going to discuss, but right now just understand that we have these 6 methods of forecasting. We might also have some other methods, but right now I'm aware of these methods, and we are going to be taking these 6 methods using SK time library. Okay, finally I want to discuss how can I determine which forecasting is better than other. Obviously I can plot the results of forecasting, and depending upon how close the forecasted value are to the real actual values, we can determine whether this method is good or not. But this kind of method is actually not very feasible, and also I do not like this method, because in sklearn, if you guys have used, we have a library called matrix library, and from matrix library what we can do is we can do all sorts of things like accuracy computation, and we can compute something like mean squared errors to evaluate our models. How did our model do? So just like this, do we have something in time series to evaluate our forecasted values? Yes, we do have, and that method is known as SMAPE loss, or rather error. So let me quickly Google this out, SMAP, and I think I will have a Wikipedia page. Yeah, so Wikipedia page is actually listing the URL of this, formula of the actual SMAP that we will be calculating. Now using you see this formula, it is actually quite simple formula. What do we do in forecast? In forecast we compute some set of future values. Let us say I am trying to compute future 10 values. Now I will have 10 actual values and I will have 10 forecasted values. I will represent actual values as 80 and I will represent forecasted value as FT, and then I can use this formula here, and here n is representing how many values did I forecast. So I forecasted 10 values, so n will be 10. Okay, so this formula is quite simple, and even if you have to implement it by yourself, it is not going to take too much time. You just have to import NumPy, and it is just 2 or 3 lines of code of formula. Okay, I am obviously not going to do that in this video, but I will show you the SMAP, which is actually implemented in the SK time library itself. So I'll say from SK time dot performance matrix, and I guess forecasting, import SMAP loss. Yes, now this particular function takes as expected 2 arguments, y predictions and y loss, or sorry, y actual values. Those 2 values, when I feed this particular formula, we get a single value, and what can we do with that single value? What we can do is we can fit another forecaster and we can compute SMAP loss for that forecaster too, and we can compare those two SMAP losses, and from those losses we can see which loss is minimum, and we can decide about which forecasting was actually better. So let me go to the list of notebooks, and in the last notebook I actually had done this kind of thing where I fitted many forecasters using different strategies, and I was not able to decide which forecaster is actually better. So I'll copy this code and I'll paste it right here. Okay, and I'll do this for one more time. Here I have used seasonal last with SP is equal to 10. Here I have used seasonal last with SP is equal to 12. Okay, and I'll paste it right here. Okay, so now we are having two forecasters. So now what I am going to do is, first of all, let me import these naive forecasters. So I'll say from sk time dot forecasting dot naive, I am going to import this naive forecaster. Okay, and do we have to do we have to import anything else? Yes, we did not define any fh here, so I'll say fh is equal to np dot arrange, and arrange from 1 to 37 because we need to predict future 36 values, and we do not have np, so we need to import that np. So I'll say import numpy as np. Yes, now now it is saying why train is not defined. Oh my god, now I need to also import from sk time dot model selection, I guess, or rather I should say forecasting dot model selection, import temporal train test split. So I'll say y train and y test temporal train test split and airline. So now it is going to work. So now notice the performance of this naive forecaster using strategy is equal to seasonal last and SP value of 10. Now how can I compute the SMAP loss of this particular function? So I'll say SMAP loss. So it takes two arguments, y test and y pred. Now to compute y test, we have already computed y test here. So I'll say y test and y pred we have here from here. So let me compute this loss. Yes, so the loss is 0.206. Now by looking at this loss, you will not be able to decide anything unless and until you have another forecasting method. So if I hit run here, so this forecasting is giving this kind of behavior. Obviously we are not able to decide whether this is better than this. So what we can do is we can call this SMAP loss again, and we can call this y test and y pred. Okay, so now this time the SMAP loss is less than the SMAP loss that we get using the SP value of 10. The strategy is similar, strategy is same for both forecasters, but the SP value is different. So hence we computed this SMAP forecast, and hence we are done with these set of questions. Okay, so now we are done with some preliminary theory that we need to understand and we need to have an idea of, and from next set of videos we will start talking about some more forecasting methodologies and how can we use those forecasting methodologies in SK Time library. So thank you so much for watching this video, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you have any doubts and queries, please put those queries in the comments down below. And also one more thing, if you have any suggestions and feedback regarding this topic, because I have not yet recorded future videos, so those future videos, if you want to kind of customize in your own way, then you can tell me in the comments down below. I will be glad to use those suggestions in my next set of videos. Okay, so thank you so much for watching the video. Have a nice day.